Hey everyone, and welcome to Finding Your Voice Part 2. I really want to thank everybody that's been responding to my previous blog, Finding Your Voice Part 1. I got some great advice, I got great concerns, I got, all kinds of conversations got started up because of that, and I really want to thank you guys for participating in my blog and taking the time to read it or watch it. It encourages me to keep going and tells me that what I'm doing is appreciated and useful to you all. In Finding Your Voice Part 1, I talked about one of my big challenges early on in the process of writing memoir, which I still deal with it, from time to time, is making sure my voice is coming out the way it's supposed to. It sounds like me, it doesn't sound like anybody else. And of course, after all of the research that I did, all the books that I showed you guys in one of my previous blogs, there were so many beautiful voices, different writers with different styles, that I kind of lost my own. I wouldn't call it necessarily writer's block because I was forcing myself to write, and I wrote about 3 essays through this period, and those essays did not sound like me. They weren't as creative. I didn't enjoy the writing process for those essays. I was doing it because I had to, and I'm glad I kept writing through that challenge and I didn't let it stop me from writing, so that was a good thing. And if I had stopped writing, then I wouldn't have anything to show for those months where I was researching and things like that. So I'm glad I kept writing through it, but I didn't enjoy it. And one consistent critique that I got about the writing that I was doing during this challenging period was that it didn't sound like me. It sounded like I was holding back. And I realized that that is exactly what I was doing. One, I lost my voice because of, reading all these other different voices, but 2, I was holding back. I read all these beautiful memoirs, encouraging me, inspiring me, but I was still scared to write my own. And so that's one of the reasons I was holding back, is I realized it was more than just a writing issue. My voice wasn't coming out because I was scared to put my story down. Voice is the most important part of a memoir, and if you're not being authentic, then it's not gonna sound good. It's not gonna stand out, and it's not gonna be interesting. And I just want to share in this video some other techniques and exercises that kind of helped me get over this hurdle. So after some soul searching, I began practicing certain writing exercises that helped me find my voice again in the writing. One of the things I was able to do to get my voice back is try humor writing. So this is, I was still taking classes for my graduate program for my MFA, and I took a humor writing class. Humor writing is not something I normally do, but it's something I want to include in my memoir because I don't want my memoir to just be sad. And I've read a lot of, humorous memoirs to research for my memoir, and I really love, the way these authors weaved their tragedies with, humor in these memoirs, so I wanted to practice that. So I took a humor writing class. And since it's not something I normally do, it took me out of my comfort zone as a writer. And I think that is one of the biggest things, is when you lose your voice, try writing something different that you don't normally write. Get out of your comfort zone as a writer. It forces you to really examine yourself and your writing. It forces you to do something different. And in that process, you realize who you really are and what your voice is and what you gravitate towards. So in my humor writing, I realized I gravitated towards satire a lot. And so that's the primary form of humor that I'm including in my memoir, is satire, because I enjoy writing it and other people enjoy reading it. So once I took this humor writing class, and got out of my comfort zone, I realized it helped. Like, for example, when I got class assignments, I had parameters. The professor wouldn't tell me what to write, but my professor would give me a parameter or a format or something to build upon. And when I was writing, my memoir on my own, and I don't have a homework assignment to do it for, I don't have parameters that my professor has given me, so I have to come up with my own. what helped me was creating formats of my own. For example, I wrote a satire piece on our education system in the United States, and I decided to use the format of a class syllabus to write it, and it really, really helped because I had now, for me, when I have a format or I have some kind of structure to jump off of, I tend to write, much more creatively to work around that format. Other formats that helped me write were letters. I loved writing satirical letters to people or objects. It really helped me get my voice out. And this is, a lot of this, like I said, satire is still related to a lot of my humor writing. But then I took those same formats that I used in my humor writing class and I applied it to some serious things. And I ended up writing an essay that was a series of letters, but serious letters, not satirical letters, to people in my life who may have hurt me, or to things and systems that I have come across in my life that have been hurtful or damaging in some way. So I turned this format that I usually use for satire into something serious. And it helped as well get my voice out. It was really raw. It felt like me, and I enjoyed the writing process. Another exercise that kind of helps me get my voice out creatively is thinking about a metaphor or a very, very strong image, and then using that image to write an essay around it. So this helps me with, like, when I'm writing a lyric essay. Like I said, this is very creative, it's poetic, things like that. It's not narrative. I don't write narrative nonfiction for the most part. So I do like to use, more poetic voice. So I love lyric essays and I love writing them. But one of the ways that my lyric essays come out the strongest is if I center the entire essay around one strong image or one strong metaphor and just build the whole essay around it. It helps to write around it. It has to be a very powerful image or very powerful metaphor. So that's where the hard work comes in, to think about something that's so powerful that you can just write around it. Something else that helps me get my creative voice out is writing about place. There are entire classes based on just writing about place. It's quite a skill, and I think for memoir it's an important skill because a lot of our past is connected to like a home or a town or a hospital room or maybe a car, place where you lived through these moments. It's another technique that helps me get writing. One more writing exercise that helps me is using different voices. So if you're having trouble getting your voice out, try writing the essay in second person, or try writing the essay in first person or third person, whatever voice you're using. Try writing about the same topic using a different voice. So that forces you to think outside of your head, outside of yourself, think in different perspectives, and that's where the creativity comes in, when you're forced to think in different perspectives. Another technique, which is similar to writing about place, is writing about travel. So if part of your memoir takes place in a very unique town, or you went abroad somewhere to another country or whatever, turn that location into a character on its own and write about that. Write about your travel experience there, and how it's important to your story. Other formats I use include writing in a list format, writing a recipe format. I wrote a whole satirical piece written in the form of a recipe. It's not an actual recipe, it's satire, but that's the format I used because the piece was centered around food and culture. You can write in like instructions, a list of instructions, a listicle format, texts, emails. These are all different creative formats that can help you write, in a more interesting way and get your voice out. So those are all the formats and techniques that I actively use to get my voice out, to overcome this issue. And then lastly, one technique that's helped me a lot lately is, and I think one of you mentioned this in one of your comments on, I forgot which Facebook writing group page, but one of you mentioned this and I completely agree with this. I write by hand in a notebook as if I'm writing in a journal. Because when you're writing in a journal, that's you, as raw as it can get. You know, that's your voice. No holdbacks, no fear, nothing. That's you, that's your voice. So sometimes when I get stuck writing about a topic, or if it's a topic I'm scared to write about, I will write by hand in a notebook as if I'm writing in my journal. That's when it just starts flowing, and then I take that and then I type it into a Word document and expand on it from there. But I started off as a journal entry in a notebook. These are just some techniques and exercises that I've used to help me deal with this issue. It's basically about turning off the analytical side of your brain and getting rid of that fear, overcoming that fear. Now I have just a short list of resources that I use also out there that you can use that kind of help you get writing, get your voice out. One resource that's helped me get out of my head a little bit is Writers Write. It's a website that has writing tips and techniques, and you know, it's like a writers community kind of. And I've signed up for their email that I get every single day. They send out a newsletter, and in those newsletters they have writing prompts, and those writing prompts, because they're so open-ended, they can, you know, really get your juices flowing. So I like to use those prompts when I'm feeling stuck. Every now and then I'll just open up a Writers Write email and just look through the prompts. It'll get your creative juices flowing and get you writing. So that's one thing that helped me. Another resource that I use a lot now is Facebook writing groups. There's so many Facebook writing groups. I'm gonna list them in this blog at the bottom. If you guys can read the rest of the blog, it's in there. They help a lot because that's your online community. It's hard to find a community where you live sometimes, and even if you live in a city where there are lots of writing groups and things like that, sometimes you need quick feedback or just quick opinions, or you just need to know that you're not alone in this struggle. So Facebook writing groups are great, and you guys know I've been posting these blogs on all of these Facebook groups, and you guys have been responding to them and starting conversations on them, so I really appreciate your feedback. Another resource I use is I have some reference books, you know, whether it's a memoir or it's a craft book. Keep some reference books with you that when you're feeling stuck, you can just open them up, flip through some of the pages, and get your creative juices flowing, get your mind right. Put, you know, those light bulbs start going off in your head, like, you know, oh, I could write about something like this, or I could use this format to write about that. So I keep these reference books handy. So those are all the techniques, formats, resources that I am using still to get over this challenge of making sure my writing is authentic and it sounds like me. If you guys have any resources, I know some of you have shared a lot of wisdom with me already, but if you have any more resources, please share with me in the comments below. Let me know, you know, how you've overcome this challenge. In my next blog, which is called Finding Your Voice Part 3, I will be featuring a memoir writing teacher and the techniques that she uses with her students to help them find their voice. So hopefully it will be helpful to you all, and hopefully this blog was helpful to you all with the resources that I shared. This was Finding Your Voice Part 2. Stay tuned. Every Wednesday I'm here with a new blog. I really appreciate all of you who've been giving me constant feedback and engaging with my blog, taking the time to read it and listen to it. My hope is that you find something useful out of it. And I really have been enjoying sharing my memoir writing journey with you all so far, and there's plenty more to go. Stay tuned, and I'll see you guys next Wednesday. Bye.